Good evening. It is Thursday, September 4th, 2025 at approximately 6:05 p.m. and I call the City of Maple Plain Planning Commission meeting to order. To start off, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome, everyone. First order of business is to adopt agenda. So if anyone has any add-ons that they'd like to put forth on the agenda, please speak now. Otherwise, I need a motion to adopt the agenda and approve tonight's items.
With none heard, I would make that a motion.
I got to remember your names. Okay, Mike first that motion. I need a second.
I'll second.
Stefan seconds it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say the same. Ayes have it, 4-0. With that, we are just moving right along, and we need to think all the way back 6 months ago. March 6, 2025 was the last meeting that we had, and the city has provided some notes related to that meeting. Anything that we want to add, correct, typos that we saw, anything that wasn't caught here that we can remember?
I see one typo. Under other business, spelling of my last name.
Okay.
And in general, actually, I think I see that in several locations
Okay.
throughout. I guess I'd like to see a little more detail in the minutes in terms of the content of our discussion. Rather, this is kind of a basic outline of what happened and who spoke and what was passed. But I guess I'd like to see more detail in terms of important discussion items.
Okay. Any other comments at all?
To approve the minutes.
Okay, Stefan makes a motion to approve the minutes. Do I hear a second?
I'll second the motion.
Adam seconds the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say the same. Ayes have it, 4-0. Okay. I gotta switch to. Now we're on to okay, discussion, and this involves any. Is this the point at which we would ask the public to comment about?
No, we'll be doing.
Description.
We'll start with my presentation, and then we'll go to the public hearing after I do that, and/or after you ask questions of me.
Okay.
Give you this one. We're gonna try to get that presentation up. It's not connecting, so hopefully I'll jump up here in a second. So first item for consideration tonight is a request for site plan review and a conditional use permit to allow a cannabis cultivation and manufacturing business to operate within the existing building located at 5600 Pioneer Creek Drive. The applicant, Justin Sauer and Zomer Farms LLC, is asking the city to consider a site plan review to allow the use of the existing space on the subject property for a cannabis cultivation and manufacturing business, and then a conditional use permit to allow that particular business in the I-1 industrial zoning district. The property is located at 5600 Pioneer Creek Drive. It's zoned industrial. It's guided by the city's comprehensive plan as industrial. It's approximately 11 acres in overall size. In the industrial zoning district, cannabis business. All except low-potency hemp edible retailers are considered a conditional use permit or a conditional use, and the city, in order to allow the use of the building for that purpose, would have to grant a conditional use permit. So on the property, currently there's a 40,000 square foot building. The applicant is looking to lease approximately 20,000 square feet of the existing building, which is, and in this case would be the east half, for the proposed cultivation and manufacturing operations. City discussed the use with the applicant and talked about that cannabis businesses are considered conditional uses, and that all conditional use permits in the city are required to have site plan approval associated with that. In this case, this would be the same for any conditional use that the city would consider. But what we really look at is if there's a change in use of a particular building that takes a building's usage from one type of use to another, that there would be site plan review, but in this case, a conditional use permit kicks in the site plan review requirement. The city sent the applicant a list of questions to try to understand and better provide context relating to how they would use the building, what type of materials they would use in their processing, how they would bring those in and out of the building, how they would store products that are produced in the building, try to understand the number of employees associated with the business so we could look at things like parking, and then just in a broader sense understand more aspects relating to how the property would be used, how the materials that are going to be processed or the product that was going to be manufactured would be made, and kind of what was involved with all of that. So in doing that, we kind of went through a review, and I did provide a copy of our letter along with the applicant's response to that initial letter, providing more detail, more information. I try to capture and or summarize some of that information in the report, but I don't know everything about what they, how they're operating or what their, kind of full operations will be. With that said, the applicant would be leasing half of the building for the cultivation and manufacturing of cannabis under the medical combined license awarded by the state. At this particular location, it's important to note that there is no retail requested at this time, so they're looking at just the cultivation and manufacturing portions of that license. So they intend to cultivate approximately 15,000 square feet of cannabis measured by the canopy, and they talk about the process in their narrative and their response to our questioning about how they would grow that, and then how they would manufacture that or convert that into a product that would be then for sale. So they talk about what that looks like and what that kind of end product would be. Ultimately, what they would be looking to do is sell cannabis flower and manufactured cannabis products through or for wholesale sales to retailers. I believe they noted in their application that ultimately they intend to open up their own retail outlets, but not in this particular location. They did provide us with a floor plan indicating the general use of the interior space of the building, showing that there's an entranceway, a lobby area, a small office area, as well as then the cultivation area, which is really the entire back portion of the building. They don't have any outdoor storage planned at this time, so all processing, manufacturing, storage of materials, storage of finished products would be handled inside of the building. They did note that I did note that any change in that use would require site plan review amendment and potentially a conditional use permit amendment. They talked about that they would just use normal trash or refuse containers for a warehouse business, nothing special, nothing unique to what they're proposing to do. They did note they'd have between 3 and 5 deliveries per week once the business is fully operational. And they noted, and we did look at this a little bit closer, that the disposal of cannabis materials, so anything that would be part of their manufacturing cultivation, that would be a part of that would be defined as those cannabis materials, are regulated by the state under the Office of Cannabis Management, and they would be securely contained inside the building and disposed of off-site in accordance with applicable requirements. So with that said, we do have criteria looking at conditional use permits in general. We also have the criteria in our ordinance relating specifically to cannabis businesses. In those criteria, we look at must be licensed by the state, which they will be. A cannabis retailer or cannabis business with a must be registered under city ordinance if they have a retail endorsement, must meet the cannabis business buffer. In this case, again, they're not a retail business, so that buffer only applies to retail businesses. And then must not exceed the cannabis business retail limit. And again, they're not retail, so they don't have, that criteria isn't applicable. With our conditional use permit criteria, we have general criteria listed in the city's ordinance. And really what we look at is that the proposed conditional use of the property doesn't cause for or create any type of conditions that cannot be adequately mitigated by the applicant that would take away reasonable use and enjoyment of the surrounding property. And so there's a kind of a broad application of those criteria, but in this particular case, we do look at some additional factors. So when we go in and start looking at a existing building that's changing use, one of the things we're trying to confirm is that parking that's provided for the building on site is adequate to accommodate the proposed new use for this particular building. We do look at the condition of the building relating to whether or not it's a conforming building, if there's any illegal or legal non-conforming aspects to the property. In this particular case, we did look at the required setbacks. We noted that the existing building in its current condition does meet applicable building setbacks as well as parking setbacks. We noted what those were in the ordinance. We did look at the parking. In this particular case, we really focused on the product manufacturing in approximately 15,000 square feet, which is their manufacturing area. They do have a very small office, but in the way that it was described, it really overlaps the manufacturing. So we looked at that. We also looked at the maximum number of employees that they'd have at any given time on the property. And so with the product manufacturing, we noted one space per 400 square feet is required. So we took 15,000 divided by the 400 and came up with 38 spaces of required parking. We noted that the eastern half of the property has 41 existing spaces, but in looking at what the applicant had provided in terms of its employee and projected employees, and then the kind of historical use of this particular property, we found that 15 to 20 employees at any given time would be the maximum that they would have. And so in looking at the required spaces of 38, the provided spaces of 41, we believe that the site has adequate parking. When we looked at those 41 spaces, I will note that the 41 spaces are associated with just that half of the building, although there isn't a sign or a line or something like that, but we tried to calculate what that really looked like. And so that still leaves the other half of the building to have the parking that they have on that side. We looked at the site lighting on the building. There is currently independent, there's currently lighting on the building. There is no independent lighting. All of the lighting is wall mounted. And those mounted lights do not meet all the cutoff standards of the city. They're kind of a outward facing wall pack. If anybody drove by or looked at the building. So we would be looking for some direction relating to that aspect from Planning Commission. We looked at site landscaping, just in general how it is and whether or not it would conform to existing standards. The site does have existing landscaping. It has perimeter landscaping on both the east and west property lines. As you all know, I think the north property line kind of looks out over the wetland area and that large complex, so there wouldn't typically be a need for landscaping on the backside or that north side. And then they do have a landscaped area between the front parking lot or the front parking spaces and the street. There's a series of planting beds with low shrubs, grasses, and deciduous shade trees. So I noted in the report the existing site has historically been used for manufacturing, warehousing, and office. The applicants are proposing to use the existing building in a similar manner to the historical use. The building is located in the industrial zoning district, which was established to allow commercial manufacturing and processing. Due to many factors, including the new concept or kind of the unknown concept of cannabis manufacturing, cultivation, and just in general the business, because we don't have experience with it. The city, when we adopted our ordinance, chose to make that use conditional so that we had an opportunity to just see how these businesses work, what's involved with these businesses, and what kind of things we need to think about or consider in the future. This is the first business we've had that would come in under our recently adopted cannabis ordinance. So we're trying to kind of work through and think through what are the potential factors that would require mitigation beyond what our kind of normal mitigation measures would be. But with that said, the proposed use of the existing building doesn't appear to intensify or cause for additional impacts to the surrounding properties based on what they proposed and the information that we were able to obtain relating to the proposed use. So with that, ultimately, you would need to find that the existing building meets the requirement of the city site plan review standards, which we kind of went over generally. It's always a little bit of a kind of a subjective review and opinion when we're talking about existing sites that have been in operation versus when we're talking about brand new sites that we can kind of more objectively measure against our current standards. But with that, be happy to answer any questions, go through any of the materials as well. And as was noted, this would be a public hearing that would relate to the conditional use permit. So.
All right, with that, I would like to open this session up to the public hearing. We will hear your comments. We will consider your comments, but they aren't necessarily extended toward the agenda items. Be respectful, common courtesies. Those are some generic rules for our public hearing. And with that, I need a motion to open up public hearing. Right? Yep.
You do.
I'll move to open the public hearing.
I have Adam moving to open the public hearing. Can I get a second?
Second?
Stefan seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say the same. Ayes have it 4-0, so the public hearing is open as of 6:24 p.m. today. First person to speak, Mary Kelly. Please step up to the podium, state your name, where you live, and express your concerns.
My name is Mary Kelly, and I live at 5760 Main Street in Maple Plain. I'm curious about what the odor control aspect of this operation would be. I didn't see anything in the documents, before the meeting that specifically talked about that. My understanding is that even though this will be an indoor operation, that cannabis, the plants themselves, can emit a significant odor at certain stages of growth. And that, depending on what the air handling system is, that odor could be emitted into the environment. And I know I've read in other locations around the country that has been a significant source of neighbor distress, that kind of odor. So I'm wondering if there's air filtration systems planned that would mitigate that, and that's one question. And then kind of related to that, if there is some kind of special filtration, would there be air handlers related to that or to any other part of this operation that would emit significant noise into the environment? So, because we live just on the other side of Highway 12, and we hear manufacturing operations stuff from time to time, and don't want that noise to be increased in the neighborhood. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Appreciate it. And then I believe Dennis Kelly, is your topic also related to the same?
No,
Is it related to a different topic?
well, it's related to the cannabis
Okay,
operation.
yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
As Mr. Sherson, Mr. Kaltis gave the report, you noted that the existing lighting on the outside of the building does not meet city standards. And I'm just curious as to, with a new conditional use permit and some intention by the new operator to install additional lighting, will the lighting be brought into compliance with city codes and standards? Related to that, the new lighting is intended to keep everybody safe and to make sure that the lighting's adequate for the video recording as required by law. Are there standards, and this is just a question, I don't know the answer, are there standards of lighting intensity and directionality to which the operator can look to for guidance to not create excessive lighting? I know we have a number of buildings, especially along 12, where excessive lighting is almost blinding to the drivers. It's not shaded or shuttered in any way. And I would just want to make sure that a new operator would come in and be in compliance with our own standards and hopefully with the international dark sky standards, if those can be implemented adequately. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you.
You could ask if the applicant's here and if they could speak, yeah.
If the applicants are here, did they want to come to the podium,
Sure.
state their name, and
Definitely.
give us the down low on who you are and what
Yeah, for sure.
that?
Excuse me. I think I caught your cough. My name's Justin Sawyer. I'm the owner of Zomer Farms. I'm here tonight with my daughter Zoe and Jesse Davis, who is the lead cultivator on site. So wanted to make sure Jesse was here as well, just in case some of the questions got into a little more depth that we needed to tap into his mind on. But I think I can, if you would like, I can address Mary and Dennis's questions first, and then answer your questions, or however you guys want us to handle this.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So just to give you a little background on myself, I have a legal background. I'm a little eclectic. I have a legal background, also a licensed financial advisor, and I'm a licensed Major League Baseball agent. So I've taken a lot of tests in my day. Filling out this license application was one of the more challenging ones. But on the question of odor control, so great question, and it definitely is an issue around the country. This facility, if you kind of look at it like it's kind of a room within a room. So these modular rooms are placed inside the building. And those modular rooms have their own climate control system, filtration, and it's very highly efficient, because if you're gonna grow quality cannabis, part of that efficiency is filtration. So that air that comes out of those modular rooms then is released into the warehouse space. So then we add additional air filtration to the systems in the space to then filter that air out into the atmosphere, right? one of the issues that, it's never perfect, right? So if you don't get it right, you have to add more. But that's a part of working with the city. We think that we're not gonna have any issue with it because of the high-quality systems that we're putting in. So, and it's, the positive result of putting in higher efficiency filtration systems is better product that thus sells at a higher price. So the odor control is actually a benefit of doing it right. I would say most of the people around the country that have odor issues are trying to do it cheap, right? But I will say, if we don't get it right the first time, we're definitely gonna get it right. If someone comes to the city and says that there's an issue, we'll fix it. And it's not a hard fix because you're just adding on to those systems that you already have, right? As far as the lighting, Dennis, so we don't own the building, we're coming in to lease the building. Obviously, we would hope to eventually buy the building, but if it's not up to code, like, I have a good relationship with the gentleman who owns the building. We'll work with you guys to make sure that that gets up to code. As far as though the lighting that we will be responsible for, so I guess I kind of look at that as maybe the lighting on the street, or kind of that, but I guess I'm not too smart on that part, so sorry about that. But as far as the lighting with the building, security is a big issue, right? And it's more of a deterrent when you don't have a retail space, right? We're not selling, so the public really shouldn't be coming to our front door and walking in. We're not giving tours, right? But you still have that, at night, someone thinks that they can go scan a place to break into it. So quality security is about deterrence, but it's also about protecting the property and also protecting our employees when they're there. So on the outsides, there will be license plate detectors on 3 parts of the building. And part of that security addition is making sure that there's sufficient lighting to read those plates. There will be motion sensors and like glass breakage sensors on all the windows where lights will come on, like floodlights, if they're triggered, which would be very bright as far as when you're talking about, but only in situations where someone has triggered those motion detectors to cause those lights to come on. Let me think. Did I answer your questions? I'm sorry if I didn't get.
Question about noise too.
Oh, yeah.
Will be
Oh,
exterior-
yes. Yep.
Additional external noise.
None. I mean, nothing like, it's not like a typical manufacturing facility. I know what you're talking about with the noise coming out when you're working with steels or metals, but this is, no, there will be no additional noise coming out.
So if in the air filtration system, you won't be, for example, adding like rooftop air handlers or?
If there are, I mean, most of those should be contained inside, but anything on the outside is gonna be no different than what is currently operating there. Like, there's really no because of their efficiencies, they operate at a lower decibel than, like, I think probably the biggest issue with noise that I can think of off the top of my head would just be you need a backup generator on site that can operate for at least 8 hours per the Office of Cannabis Management with the state of Minnesota. We'll have something that'll operate for at least 24 to 48. It might be diesel. We haven't finalized that yet, but if that's an issue, we can work with the city to make sure. But the only thing I think, if a diesel generator's operating out of the back of the building, but we probably have more issues than us and our noise, because everyone else probably doesn't have power either.
Not concerned
But
about
when I think about that would really be the only big noise issue that comes to mind, if that's helpful. Yes, ma'am. Yep. Any questions I can answer for the committee, or?
Yeah, does anybody have questions for Justin here?
I know sorry.
Hold on. You wouldn't mute. There you go.
I know that you touched on it, and thank you for doing that. Maybe a little bit more depth. You talked about nationally there have been issues with maybe air handling or ventilation and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering what they're doing wrong And what's the difference?
Well, I would say, I think my first response on that is when you're going to read an article about any business, you're going to read more of the negative than the positive, right? So I would say with odor control across the US, you just have people who are trying to operate and get in there at the cheapest price they can, and just so that they can run. Just like someone running a business on Main Street here in a different area, they just don't they don't do it right. And the key in this business, and part of those folks end up going out of business because they're not creating a quality product. And so, like, odor really takes care of itself when you do it right, because the climate efficiency has to be precise.
Okay,
You
and
gotta have temperature and and all of that is basically invested in these HVAC systems, that you gotta clean this air so that the air coming into these rooms doesn't have any contaminants in it. So I mean, they're extremely high efficiency, and part of that is just they're not built for the odor.
Yep.
But because they're so efficient, odors,
and that's understood, and thank you.
and I wish I had more
If you could go a little
technical
more in
terms.
depth maybe
Yeah.
with what it is specifically you do,
You
that's different.
pay money and buy good air conditioning units and good, I mean, Jesse can,
You understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I mean,
yeah.
I understand we can throw money at it.
So-
Yeah.
So carbon is what scrubs the smell. Simple carbon pellets, that's basically what's cleaning any smell.
Just get up in front of the. Yeah,
sorry.
There you go. Thanks.
So carbon is what is cleaning a lot of the smell for the most part. And when you look at national growing, a lot of it's outside. It's in greenhouses. It's in areas that you can't filter very well. Even a closed hoop greenhouse, a lot of times it has a lot of cracks, and it's very hard to keep all that from leaking. With these tight air-sealed indoor spaces, you can really pull 100% of that air through filtration systems and scrub it with that carbon. So, California, a lot of these other states, 70% of their cultivation or more is in outdoor spaces like greenhouses and stuff. That's hard to contain it. And they have an ability to do that there. We're here, we have a different climate, and it really doesn't work well to even cultivate for the most part in those spaces. So we need to be indoors, which is to our benefit because we can kind of, scrub the air more. But those other places, it's more beneficial for them to be outside for their market and their price point. So that's kind of why it is the way it is. But being inside, we can push 100% of our air through that carbon and scrub it all clean.
That helps, thank you.
So I have a question. So these are actually totally self-contained units, with big cubes with lights and the air filtration all kind of self-contained? And so each of those flower rooms that I saw on the
Yes, sir.
plan is like a cube?
Yep, so the flower rooms would be the only room, well, flower clone are the ones that house the plants as they're growing. And those are basically contained with modular walls and everything's created with a tight seal. They've got a roof. And so those first HVAC and climate control units and air filtration units are kind of housed on that roof. So we've got a 20-foot clearance here in this building. Those modular walls are 15 feet tall. And so those units will sit on top of those walls and then expel that air into the warehouse, which then the warehouse has additional filtration units added into the current system, then filter it on the way out.
That additional filtration is something that you're adding, or it's
We're
already?
basically adding the carbon filters to the current,
Two levels of filtration then
correct.
you're adding.
Yes, sir. I mean, we're adding on to the current, so we're not putting new HVAC, we don't need to in the actual building. That's just adding on the air filtration components to it to make it more efficient. But yes, basically 2 sets. If that answers your question, I'm sorry.
It does, yeah, I was just
Okay,
trying to
good.
visualize
Yep.
how it's.
Go for it,
So,
Mike.
outside of just the smell, we're gonna be scrubbing for pathogens using UV light through everything. So we're not just cleaning the smell, we're cleaning everything in the air. So when you're walking through the building, you're breathing the cleanest possible air because you have employees in there and, it will be medically clean. So not only are we cleaning the smell, we're cleaning pathogens and everything else because that can affect our plants and everything. So we want to make sure that the air inside is not only, you know, clean for us, but it's clean for the plants, and we're not just cleaning just the smell, but we want the cleanest atmosphere that we can have, so.
My next question is on security.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned a couple things. If you could elaborate on that.
Yeah.
I can imagine, even though it's not retail, right? People are gonna find out that you're producing cannabis. And, you know, I can see where there might be a possibility for someone trying to break in and, you know, steal your product. And lighting is important part of that. You mentioned the security lights and so forth. But if you could kind of elaborate on measures you're taking to, you know, to address the security issue?
Yes, thank you. So, Mark, do we have that updated security layout? I got it.
I
know.
don't have it in my presentation stack,
worries.
but
No worries, I can walk through it here. So,
get it up there.
every door entrance will have a key fob. And so anyone that comes in those doors, we know who came in, we know exactly when. The rooms within the facility are also locked with key fob access. So if you look at this medical room, this medical alley here, there'll be a door, no, there's just a door here. Those have key fob entrance, and the people who have access to the rec won't necessarily have access to the med. So there's different levels of access. You look at this vault here, that's where all product will be stored. That's locked. There'll be cameras inside all of these rooms. So if anyone were to go into those rooms, but then we look at the outside of the building, so there'd be a license plate detector right here on this corner of the building. There'll be a license plate detector here, along with cameras. You have to have two separate cameras, one camera for the video and one camera for the license plate. Those will be low here, here, and back on this corner. So in our minds, someone's gonna come to the building, they're gonna case it first, right? We're gonna be able to capture those license plates first time they drive on them, if there's somebody who wants to do that. There's gonna be basically breakage or pressure detectors on all of the windows on this side of the building. If someone wants to think they can break a window, they're gonna need a ladder, but hey, it's not hard to find a ladder. Those will immediately go off and will be sent straight to the Maple Plain Police or western suburbs.
Are there windows on that side?
And so we will,
Are there windows on the bottom?
if we're approved
Where
here,
is pointing?
that's part of the next step is when we do the final approval
The
from the
common
state of
wall at the
Minnesota.
bottom, I think.
I'll be reaching out to the or to the western
Well-
suburbs sheriff's department and talking with them like, hey, here's what our security plan is. Is there anything you guys think we should do different based on how people are operating in this area? We have panic buttons inside the building. So every office on the main floor, on the upper level, will have a panic button. At the desks, we'll also have two panic buttons that people can wear as lanyards. So any employee who, you want your employees to feel safe. You want this place, it's about, like I was saying to these folks, it's about deterrence and people knowing that there's security there, but it's also about people that come to work there knowing that they're safe. And as a result of that, hopefully people don't think that they can break in. So, you know, but if they do, it's, I mean, it will be an extremely secure building, because again, it's something we take very seriously. And so we're gonna go above and beyond what the state requires. If you look at what the Office of Cannabis Management requires and what we've actually built out to install in here, we're going way up above and beyond what they need to approve it.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
And a lot of the AI technology too helps a lot now with the camera systems, because it'll actually identify people who are walking, trying to break in and over the loudspeaker and say, hey, you in the blue sweatshirt, stop. And then you're there for another 30 seconds. You've been warned, the police have been called. So there's new kinds of security that, you know, help keep employees safe and help response time and things like that, that will also help us as we kind of ramp up and tune our security. But our plan is to be above and beyond. We have eyes where the OCM wants us, but we're also gonna use some new technology to kind of help us be a little more advanced than things are now.
And just one thing that Mark mentioned was retail. There's no intention to put retail, just because of the way the state has it set up. You get one retail per congressional district with this license that we have. And it just, that's not an area where, if we put a retail in this space, we can't put a retail in Wayzata or downtown. So there's just not enough traffic here, where I would want one. So just if that's, it's like, how can you, obviously we'd have to come back if we did, but that's not the intention here at this space. We will open our own retails, but they will be, the one that's in this congressional district will not be here.
Quick question along the lines of security.
Yes, sir.
I know why banks need security, because it's kind of a draw, right? That's where
Yep.
the money is, we know where to go to get it. A salt lick is something that you put out in the woods to attract deer, right? Is this a salt lick? Are we going to, do we open ourselves up for people coming into the community?
No, I don't think it's any more of a salt lick than a jewelry store downtown, or, obviously a bank, or any place. But they're definitely, you're gonna get the people who, I practiced law for a while, I did a lot of trial work, and I did a lot of criminal work. And, criminals aren't very smart. And so you're gonna get plenty of people who might think, like, hey, let's go check this place out. But the goal is, when they see, you can't control dumb. But if they're smart enough to see all the cameras outside and all the security, it's not hidden, it's not obvious, and it's not an eyesore. But if I'm casing a building, I'm gonna see camera. And hopefully that's a deterrent to the majority of the dumb people who think that they would be able to go in. And quite frankly, I don't understand what are you gonna do? This isn't a diamond. You're gonna go in and steal a plant? There's a hell of a lot more work that goes into that, but again,
Understood.
yeah, so hopefully, I don't think it's any more of a salt lick, especially since there's not a retail component to it. It's just not a high traffic area for the public, so you really would have to seek it out or just know it's there. And the only thing on the door is gonna be Zomer Farms LLC, so that deliveries know where to put the package. There's gonna be no additional signage on the outside. We're not advertising, hey, look at us, here's where we're at. So we're gonna try to keep a low profile, and really the outside of the building isn't gonna change in look or appearance, other than those security measures that are gonna be outside.
And you had mentioned that there would be 2 deliveries weekly, or
Yeah,
pickups, or whatever it would. I
so
think you said
it's kind of tough, but let me hopefully try to add some color on that. So at the beginning here, let's say, the goal is to be operational by January 1, and so all these modular walls and HVAC units and stuff have to be delivered, right, in October and November, right? And they're gonna be in that back warehouse just waiting for the general contractor to come and put the puzzle pieces all together to be operating by January 1. So we've got large semis that are gonna be coming in to drop that stuff off. Once that's done, deliveries are literally what's being delivered to our business, just like it's being delivered to any other business, as far as, boxes of materials, safety equipment, goggles. All of our techs have to wear full body so that they don't get contaminants out, right? So deliveries like that, but there really isn't gonna be backdoor large equipment coming in. It's just that everyday kind of safety equipment, whatever shows up at a warehouse type of stuff.
Sounds like, I equate this, I think everybody in the panel here with what their background is, has been involved in clean room
Yeah.
construction in one form or another. So
Yes.
am I accurate in saying you're really creating, not to that level maybe, or maybe you are at that level,
At that level or even
clean
higher.
rooms within each one of these
Correct.
environments?
Yes, sir. That is actually they're basically clean rooms. And a little bit because of the lighting that we got to put into, you want to make sure that there are 0 contaminants in those rooms.
Are you creating additional heat that needs to be gotten rid of? Are you,
No, I mean, your climate control units are taking care of that.
Now, this is a shared space, right? Because there's another half of this warehouse.
That's correct.
Is there a current business in that other half?
Yes, I believe there is
Okay.
another business in that.
So then when it comes to
Yep.
odor, how will it impact that other half of the warehouse?
That part is actually works out real nice based on the design of the building. It's kind of like a mirror image on both sides with a thick concrete wall. So our wall right here literally is thick concrete, and then the second half of the building is over here. So they're entirely, there's two blocked up kind of warehouse. One's like a kind of a drive-through with a forklift that was boarded up. It's boarded up right now. And then another is more of like a smaller two-door. And the plan is for us to basically block both of those entries. So there won't be anything but concrete between us and that side. And the reason we're gonna board them up is for the security. I mean, it just makes more sense. There's wood up there now. It needs to be blocked over, so that'll be done. Yep, there we go. Yeah, that kind of top part drives it down the middle.
Any other questions, Planning Commission? Commissioners?
I have none. I think they've all been answered.
With that, I need a motion to close the public hearing, if we're good to do that.
Guys.
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Adam moves to close the public hearing. Can I get a second?
second?
Mike seconds. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed say the same. Ayes have it 4-0. The public hearing is closed as of 6:52 PM. The only thing that I kind of noticed with the recommendations that were listed there, it does state the applicant shall address and satisfy all fire department comments. I didn't see anything associated to health and West Hennepin Police Department and stuff like that. So I would recommend adding that to the condition, is making sure everything's all square, and it sounds like you're gonna do that anyway, so.
It was addressed in the document to Mark, so I can address it now easy. The manufacturing process, there's two ways to basically take the flour and convert it into what they make into the balms and all the things that come from it. One is just basically washing with ice and water, which is what we're doing. The other is using gases. And there's probably 3 different processes that extract that medical product using gases. And when you have those gases, you have to have additional fire safety and all of that. We are not using gases. We literally have a machine that takes ice and water and the flour, and it shakes it, and all the good stuff drops down into these little bins through some micron filters, and then that's the product that's used. So there is no additional fire safety issue for the way we're, but in the business there is, because if you're gonna use those gases, like fire department has to come in, you've got to get some kind of special permission, you have to have special fire equipment set up in the building, but luckily we don't.
Yeah, and I was more commenting, because it's already on here that we will have a condition that the applicant, you're gonna address anything that the fire department does comment on. What I'm saying is, we need something for the security piece of it, the police department and West Hennepin Police. I think that might be something to add.
I think if there's gonna be a response time or expected, if the lights go off or on
Oh, yeah.
second time.
Yep.
Obviously, they could be doing U-turns.
Yep.
Coming back and forth, right? And so that becomes a cost consideration.
Oh, yeah, as far as when the police are notified,
If, it depends on how much they're notified
yeah,
or, you know, asked to respond.
okay.
That was my only comment, is including that as part of the condition, is to make sure West Hennepin Police gives the all clear.
Oh,
That's more.
definitely. Oh, and
Because then I think you
On
already
that-
spoke of it.
on that
spoke of it,
issue,
so.
once basically the state's final approval process, we have to submit something to the state that satisfies them also.
Yep.
So we'll gladly, yeah, I mean, and like I said, my plan is to reach out to the local authorities here, you know, once we know that we're gonna be able to be moving forward, but whatever you need,
Yep.
we'll send it over. Thank you.
Any other comments, commissioners?
I think, yeah, I just would agree with the recommendations that I think the wall pack lights should be updated to meet the standards of the cutoffs so that it's not a nuisance to neighbors. I know we're working through that as projects come through to get lighting updated. I know that local residents have been concerned. I look at some lights at my house as well that are pointing to the sky.
And you're glad there's no signage.
Yeah. No signage to discuss today. But no, I think
Especially internally lit ones.
other than the site lighting and that, I have no concern at this moment.
I would echo that. Yeah, it's permitted use, and it appears as though there's really isn't going to be any kind of nuisance to, the surrounding neighbors or to the community. And appreciate all the measures they're taking for security and noise and odors. Yeah, I don't have any issues with this.
The only question I have maybe for Mark is when it comes to lighting, because it's a building thing and they're only using half the building, we wouldn't necessarily put that on them to get the building lighting updated. It would be on the building owner.
Well, I mean, ultimately, it's either through this use or through the building owner. I guess they can work out how that would be.
Would they be subject to the
Typically, it'd be
entire
like
building?
a cost to the tenant improvement.
Yeah, my thought would be when I looked at the site, and I wish if this was working a little better, I'd try to show you, but I'm not going to because I think I'd drop it for the next presentation. But on that front face of the building, that's really where I would think about having them upgrade the lighting. And they're just wall pack. They're simple wall pack lights that are just open with the 45.
Yeah, they don't have a shield on them.
I think that's where I would focus. I think I'd be comfortable recommending you to leave the remaining exterior building lighting, but in that case, I would say across the entire front.
Yeah, I think there's.
That's really something that they could talk to the owner about. It's a couple of lights, but I think those could be upgraded. Those are the public facing, those are the ones that are most visible, and I think those are the ones we'd want to catch.
Mark, I just want to start, because I'll talk to Aaron about this. See, in front of the building's right here, right?
Yeah.
The lighting, like, that's on the building?
Yeah, I think there's maybe 3. No, it's only the ones in the front.
It looks like there's 4 of them.
Not lights on the grass here, like poles, but like lights that are.
Yeah, because I don't believe there are pole lights. There's a flagpole in
There-
front, but there's
So the
no.
lights here on the front of the building.
Yep, there's a couple over the door, and there might be one other, or there might
Yeah,
just
it
be
looks
3.
like there's,
Can you see it on like the street view?
yeah, it looks like there's 4 wall
4.
packs, and they're the old school ones that just kind of shine.
Yep, so they'd have to be. So it's 4 light fixtures on the front. If
Yeah.
that would be
Yeah,
okay with the
that-
planning commission, I think that would get us.
Yeah.
I mean, it upgrades part of the building. I understand it's not the whole building, but
Upgrades is what's visible too.
yeah.
Yeah, so the 4 wall packs on the front. I'll talk to Aaron about that.
Because anything on the back's gonna be shielded by the trees
Yeah.
behind the building.
And the building itself, so. Yeah, I wasn't so much concerned about the entire building. I just wanted to make sure that we were assigning that to the right person,
Yep.
so. Okay, with that, so I need a motion either to move forward or to deny this CUP with the recommendations as listed there by the city, with the additions of recommending everything is in compliance with the West Hennepin Police Department, and recommendation that everything gets up to compliance when it comes to site lighting, specifically on the front section of the building where it's public facing, so.
And the lighting, bringing it updated would be to current code or current expectation.
It would be to the current code, and we have a code
yeah.
that says exactly what that
So
could be.
that's all outlined within those
Yeah.
documents, and that's what would be followed.
So moved.
Stefan makes the first movement. I need a second
second.
movement. Adam makes the second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say the same. Ayes have it, 4-0. Okay. Now it's halftime.
All right, that item will go to the city council on September 22nd, is that right? For city council, so if anybody's here that is interested, that's when it will go.
Thank you, Mark. Now, moving on to our next agenda item, North Shore Gymnastics at 5380, 5480 Pioneer Creek. Right in the same spot, pretty much.
We're staying on the same road.
And on the same street.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Planning Commissioners. This next item is a request by North Shore Gymnastics for site plan review, preliminary and final plat to allow a new building and associated site improvements to be located on the properties at 5380 and 5480 Pioneer Creek Drive. The applicant, North Shore Gymnastics, and the owner, Proto Labs, have requested the city consider the following actions for the property. One would be the site plan review to consider the new development, and the second would be preliminary and final plat approval to allow the two properties to be replatted to combine the majority of the two properties and reconfigure a small portion of the property to the west, which will be continued to be owned by Proto Labs. So the properties are located on Pioneer Creek Drive on the north side. They're zoned industrial. They're guided by the city's comprehensive plan as industrial. And they're approximately 2.25 acres for the 5380 and 4.1 for the 5480. And you can see those two properties as shown on the screen. So the applicant is seeking site plan approval, preliminary and final plats to allow construction of a new facility that would house the North Shore Gymnastics Center. The applicants approached city several years ago about the possibilities of building or constructing their own building, noting that they've been a resident of Maple Plain for many, many years, and they've leased property currently in the industrial park just to the west of this particular site on the south side of the road. So they wanted to build a bigger and newer facility that they would own, and they wanted to stay in Maple Plain. So the city and the applicant have talked about a number of properties in Maple Plain over the last couple of years, and they were able to ultimately secure the purchase of a portion of these two properties, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute. What they'd like to do is build their gymnastics center, which we would classify as an indoor recreational facility. It should be noted, indoor recreational facilities are permitted uses within the I-Industrial zoning district. The two properties that they're looking at were vacant until approximately 2016, when Proto Labs identified a need to construct additional parking areas, believing that they would expand office personnel at the adjacent office building. Proto Labs actually had done some modifications to the building as well as to the parking lot that was just to the east and to the north of their existing building in 2012, 13, 14. But then wanted to construct new parking in 2016. So the applicant had identified this land and this particular property, and we looked at whether or not the sale of this parking area and the loss of parking would have any impact on the Proto Labs facility or site. What we noted, and it was noted actually when they built the parking in 2016, is that that building was sufficient with parking in accordance with our ordinance prior to them building that parking, but they had wanted to build additional parking, thinking they were going to try to expand operations in that. And that expansion in that particular facility didn't occur, and they've since changed directions with how they're utilizing that building and that site, and they identified that this was essentially surplus parking. So with that, the applicant's proposing to construct an approximately just over 40,000 square foot building along with associated site improvements on this particular property. And they would plan to utilize essentially the existing access point off of Pioneer Creek Drive to bring people into this site. And then they would have a parking lot that comes in and then ultimately wraps around. And I'm going to pull up their site plan right here. I'm going to actually zoom in on that a little bit. So it comes into the site and then would run along what would now become the west side of the proposed building and then along the north side. So they'd have an access drive aisle coming in, parking off of both sides of that. You can see then just to the west of that, you can see that Proto Labs would be maintaining this strip of parking in its current configuration and condition, and they would be maintaining that connected to their existing parking lot and their facility then to the west. This area would be fenced off between the two facilities, and so they'd be running a fence essentially down what would become the new property line separating that, such that the Proto Lab site would be essentially separated from the North Shore Gymnastics site for a whole list of reasons, but I'm sure you can understand why they would want to make that clean and clear separation between those. So with what they're proposing, we do a full review of the site plan. The applicant prepared a full set of plans for the city to consider that shows the new facility. It shows parking, grading, utilities, stormwater, and then lighting, landscaping, and then ultimately building architecture as well in the plan set that was submitted. And so we do a full review of that. The proposed facility then, when we started to look at it, one of the first things we look at is parking. We noted in our report that we do not have a parking standard for indoor recreational facilities, which is not uncommon for our ordinance. We don't have every single use in our ordinance covered with an associated parking stipulation or requirement. Some of our uses we have kind of general categories that we try to fit things into, but other uses we try to come up with a appropriate parking number or count based on a bunch of criteria that we would look at. One is, are there other standards in other cities that have similar facilities? Are there industry standards? Is there historical data that we can draw on? In this particular case, we looked at a couple of different things. We looked at indoor recreational facilities. There's a general requirement that looks at that I found, and it's in several different places. I found a indoor recreational facility that, when I looked a little deeper into that, I believe that the majority of the ordinance that I found that stipulate indoor recreational facility and/or any kind of other guidance like Institute of Transportation and Engineers or anybody else that has standards published for parking demand, it really was looking at a public facility. So that would be one that, people can kind of come in and out of. It's not necessarily like the North Shore Gymnastics facility, which is a very specific and also private, essentially, facility. You have to be one of their clients to attend activities there. So with that 3 spaces per 1,000, that would generate approximately 126 spaces of required. I looked at their current facility, which is approximately 25,000 square feet. In looking at that, they have 78 parking spaces generally available. That is close to the 1 in 3, one space per 3. But I also looked at other kind of private facilities to try to gain more insight. And a lot of private facilities are based on either occupancy of the building or they're based on seating. Well, we don't really have a seating allotment here. With all of that said, the applicant's proposing 106 parking spaces, which would be associated with this building. That's a number they are very comfortable with based on their demand. I think, as a lot of you know, because I think a lot of people have had kids or others that go through that facility, they do have busing that comes in to bring kids to that facility. And when you have that kind of busing on the front end, then you're really looking at kind of really short and quick pickup parking for the majority of their day-to-day activities. So with that, the 106 is what they're proposing. I did note that there isn't a prohibition on on-street parking on Pioneer Creek Drive. So you could have parking on Pioneer Creek Drive. Actually, at one point, Protolabs actually parked a good majority of that side of the street prior to building their supplemental parking lot. That's something that we could talk more about, and Planning Commission could provide or offer any other insight, and so could the applicant. As relates to setbacks, I labeled or listed what those are in the report. They're proposing to meet all applicable setbacks. I noted that in the industrial zoning district, parking is permitted to be located essentially anywhere on the site, but cannot encroach into designated buffer yards. I did note in the report, and there's just a quick exhibit that shows the property boundary adjacent to residential on the east side. There is a required buffer yard adjacent to the residential area. That's a 20-foot buffer yard. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the landscape section. I did note that in their proposed design, we looked at stormwater utilities and grading. We noted that they meet all applicable parking space sizes. We looked at the general routing that a bus or fire apparatus could take. That's basically kind of that concrete area down the middle of the site, that darker gray line. That kind of shows how traffic can move through and turn around on the backside of that building. I noted the fire department did have a comment that came after the report was prepared, just relating to, they wanted to know the location of the fire department connection, and they noted that there will be a Knox box requirement to be located on the front of this building. The applicant provided more information on the lighting, and I did obtain cut sheets on the lighting from the applicant actually just recently, but they did provide a photometric plan showing that the lighting does meet applicable foot candle levels around the site. And in the cut sheets that were provided by the applicant, they are proposing a full cutoff type fixture for both the building and the pole lighting that would be proposed. You can kind of get a sense of how that lighting kind of sits on the site, and then where those light levels would be associated with the various lights that are proposed. The applicant provided a full landscape plan for the site, and you can see the landscape plan that's proposed. I would note that the applicant's proposing to maintain a lot of the existing landscaping that's located kind of along Pioneer Creek Road, right along the edge there, and then proposing some supplemental planting as well as some internal landscape island planting. One of the things I noted, and I did talk to the applicant, is they are proposing just a native seed mixture in this particular area The buffer that we require is a buffer up against residential, and while that property to the east is zoned residential, it's in the city of Independence, and there is an existing kind of woodland area that the applicant's proposing to leave. I do want planning commission feedback as to whether or not we should try to put some additional buffer planting material on that side. I actually think it's more important there than on the north side of the property or the north side of the building up against the proposed detention basin. So something that we would look at. I did receive comments from the city's engineer. They just noted watershed permits required, and the applicant would be in the process of obtaining that. There were some minor comments and questions that the engineer had that will be worked out between now and the time that the council would consider the approval. I don't think I know there was nothing in there that is of significance and/or would potentially alter or change the site layout. One thing with the kind of engineering or the grading that I did note, this site does sit down from the adjacent property. So that eastern property line that I was talking about that I have highlighted, it actually drops about 10 or 12 feet in that particular area from the adjacent site. So it's going to drop down from that eastern property into this site, and the building's then going to kind of level off that area where the parking lot used to be. And so it's just it's kind of something to note how that building's going to sit down in that particular site. As it relates to the building architecture, this is kind of the best rendering. I mean, this is part of the applicant's submittal. You can see the building as proposed, kind of a typical building for what would be that particular area, the industrial area. You can see what the applicant has done with that, and then they also provided a general floor plan. And so you can see, if I can get it to do it, they're kind of divided into a couple of spaces. They have what they're calling the boys' gym, the recreational gym, the girls' gym, and then you can see there is office space that's going to be located within the building, as well as restroom facilities, and then a smaller preschool gym. And then they have an upper level where they would have some other spaces, dance, party room, open office space, and some other storage support space. And then in the back of the building, they do have a loading dock area where they could bring equipment in and out of the building. And then they provided just some additional building elevations, kind of showing the building layout and colors and materials that they are proposing with that. One other thing I didn't mention, they do have a enclosure on the back side of that building. And they did provide a detail in their detail section for that trash enclosure, this fenced area back here, which would be the trash enclosure on the back side of the building. The last thing I'll just touch on is the preliminary and final plat. We noted, hopefully nobody's getting sick staring at that screen. The preliminary and final plat, they're really trying to take those two properties, and you can see the underlying shape of the properties, and they're reconfiguring those properties so that the majority of the underlying property would be replatted as Lot 2, Block 1. That would be the part that North Shore would occupy. And then you can see and I don't know why this is upside down, the Lot 1, Block 1, sorry about that, would be that smaller, narrower space located on the bottom of the plat there. I did note that there are some drainage and utility easements that are on the existing plat that have to be transferred over for the stormwater pond and the wetland area. And so we did note that in our review to the applicant. We also noted on the final plat, and I think it's something we're going to continue to talk to the applicant about prior to city council. I don't know that it changes anything for planning commission, but we would we would like to see potentially that Lot 1, Block 1 become an outlot, not a lot and block, given that in and of itself, it's not a buildable lot. In lieu of that, it could be combined with the adjacent Protolab site, which might be a kind of better long-term fit for that particular Lot 1, Block 1. This particular plat, I mean, we consider it a fairly simple plat because of what we're trying to accomplish. So I think this particular detail can be worked out. I don't think it really causes us to pause or have much concern. I think we want to accommodate the North Shore facility in the best way we can, but then we want to make sure that that smaller lot gets dealt with appropriately. So it's kind of cleaned up in the long run. So with that, be happy to go into more detail, answer questions. The applicants are here. Their builder is here as well. And it is, we do have this as a public hearing for the preliminary plat is really what's causing that, but
So I need to, a motion for opening a public hearing.
Make a motion to open that public meeting.
I got a motion from Mike. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Adam seconds the motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say the same. Ayes have it 4-0. The public hearing is open as of 7:21 p.m. With that, if the applicants are here, certainly feel free to come up, introduce yourselves, and
I won't be doing any cartwheels or gymnastics, I'm probably a poor representative.
oh, that's part of the conditional. you know.
Okay. Sorry. I'm David Yannick. I'm with Yannick Companies, the developer and owner's representative. Ryan Roloff is here, executive director from North Shore Gymnastics, as well as Chris Hansen is here from Protolabs. So thanks for your time tonight. We appreciate the review. As Mark said, we have been working on this for many years. Yannick Companies is right up the road, actually, in Spring Park. So this is right in our backyard, and my sister's kids went through Ryan's program for many years. So it's exciting to be here and exciting to be in the city of Maple Plains. So again, thanks for your time. Any questions that you have for us? We've got the right people here, I think, to hopefully address your issues or questions.
So the one thing, though, this public hearing is associated to plat.
technically it's plat. We always, I mean, most of our site plans go with conditional, or most of our site plans are associated with conditional use or something. So we notice those, but it's really the requirement is based on the preliminary plat.
But we don't have to specifically.
You
ask
do,
about
you
them.
do not.
We
You can
still
ask them.
about-
Yeah,
okay.
the site plan review is, while not necessarily public hearing, is an open opportunity for you to
Yep.
ask anything. Yep.
Okay.
It'll be mental gymnastics then? Or?
There you go, yeah. What questions do we have for any of them, really?
Yeah.
I've never had kids at the program, but I'm familiar with the facility, and that's awesome. Do you, one question I don't know is, do you have meets, those kinds of things, in that building?
No, we do not host any competitions in
Okay.
it. Nowadays, they're all held at, we hold them at the convention center.
Feel free to come to the podium and.
Yeah,
Yep.
they're just too big. We will do some special events that we've always run, but that would be with our current clientele base, not bring in anybody else from the public.
So the current parking configuration in numbers
Yeah.
would have to be based on, we're gonna bring 500 people in on a
No,
Saturday.
no, and we did a count, I did it for 2 weeks straight, went out on the hour, every hour to count how many cars we had in our parking lot, and at the most, on a given night, at a certain hour, was 68 vehicles. You know, all of our programming runs on the hour, every hour, with a 15-minute buffer in between each class. Our competitive athletes who come 4 to 5 hours a day, they're dropped off, picked up. Parents aren't sticking around, so we feel really good with our 106 stalls in this space, with allowing us some potential growth in the new facility.
Great. How does you had mentioned earlier, somewhere along the line, bus is maybe coming in and out, are those, how does that circulation work? Or how are they getting in and out? Is it out?
Yeah, so currently, North Shore Gymnastics doesn't have anything specifically tied to any of the school districts. However, Orono has an activity bus, and they, on their own, have put North Shore Gymnastics on their route, which has been a great benefit to us. So what we're proposing in this is one of two ways, is that just like with a potential fire emergency with a fire truck, the bus would drive in, drop off at the front door, have to go around to the north end of the property to turn around and then exit. The other one is that they drop them off at the corner, and we have staff there with the kids walking them up. We would work with Orono Transportation to accommodate what they would prefer that to look like for them.
So essentially one entrance, one exit.
Yep.
It's
Correct.
all that one spot.
Yep.
We're not moving the entrances, Mark noted, we're keeping the existing entryway, not creating any other access.
Do you anticipate much more traffic, larger building, obviously, in terms of your expansion of?
I would anticipate that, we would like to see a 25% growth in our clientele base with this expansion. I think that would be our ultimate goal. I don't know if we would go that far, but I could see that.
I don't know, you may have mentioned it. Has fire looked at it?
Yes, they did. So Fire had looked at it initially, said they didn't have anything that stuck out. They got me some more detailed comments, and it was just more based on the Knox box and the fire department connection. They just wanted those labeled and to know where they were.
So they feel they can get in and out?
Yeah, that was what they commented back to us on.
I don't know if anyone can comment on the technical question here about the infiltration basin. Looks like it's being resized. I presume it's resized for the new layout with building and parking lot. Does it also serve Proto Labs?
It does, it will.
And has that all been engineered accordingly?
Correct. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes, it has.
And our engineers concurred with that so far, but it still has to go through watershed.
Okay.
Right.
And then next to it, looks like you've got like a big sledding hill there. What's up with that?
Well, it's not a sledding hill. It is the existing grades. That's just the top topography, the contours of that is just so significant. Are you talking about in the north here?
You're talking about
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, this
is
here.
It's a
That-
big
tho-
hill, yeah. But
Those are just the contour lines, I believe,
Yeah,
from
there's a big-
where it is. We're not gonna be doing any building out there. The building will be all on the south side of the property, so that should be just our contours with the infiltration basin there
And I
too.
It looks like it's increasing from what's there now
Correct.
in elevation.
Or
Or is it just that the pond is
the
digging?
basin's going further down
yeah.
You're steepening-
and getting bigger.
steepening up the side slope.
It will be it will definitely be a different pond.
And then there's a retaining wall on the east side now?
Correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
As Mark noted we'll be taking the grade is at like 116 on the southeast side there. And we'll actually be taking that down to 102, grading it down from that for a final floor elevation of 1,002, actually. So that will be sitting down, the building will be sitting down a little, and that does then create thus the need for a retaining wall along that east side of the property line, if you can kind of visualize that coming down, and
Yeah, so you're
we're
cutting
taking that down.
the cut wall there.
Yeah.
And so you're grading all the way back to the property line, so all the existing vegetation, I think there's a couple of trees and some shrubs back in there, all that is
It'll actually, though, I think we're only taking out like 3 trees.
Yeah.
We're really not bothering too much along that east property line.
Majority of the trees are on the
Yeah.
residential side of that property line.
yeah, the existing sort of woodland there. I noticed there was a pine tree back in there, and that's not, wasn't identified on the plan for removal.
Yeah, we really shouldn't be, Commissioner, taking out too many of those trees. Off the top of my head, I think it was 3. Because there's really not a lot. It's parking lot, you know, so,
Yeah, you can see this, is the tree removal.
yeah, we've got the
Yeah, you're just missing, there's at least one pine tree along that east side that
sure,
wasn't identified as being removed, but
along the east side.
on the east side. I took a little reconnaissance tour this afternoon.
We can take a look. Yeah, that's good, that's good.
So the parking area for Proto Labs would be totally fenced off, no access between parking lots there.
Correct. That's
Is there
correct.
landscaping, or is it, what's the dividing line there? Is it just, is it grass with a fence, or what's happening in there?
Yeah, everything will be on the North Shore Gymnastics site. So everything will be the curbing, the curbing rock, the fence. It'll basically be a small 3-foot buffer area with maybe some landscape plantings, but it's
Looks pretty skinny.
it's not, as I say, it's your basic curbing island in which the fence can go.
Yeah, so they're showing that 6-foot privacy or vinyl fence in between the two properties.
That's just 3 feet from the curb?
It's right in between that, like, little 3.5, 4-foot gap. It's right down the middle, so it's,
So it's only 1.5 feet from the curb, so it'll get run into by a lot of cars.
There will be a curb car overhang.
it should be right on, because most overhangs don't exceed 18 inches, so it's gonna be just at that setback.
Yeah, there will be that curb there with the curbing rock, and that fence does run right down the center of that curb. The island, rather.
Yeah.
I don't know if color matters to you. Is there a color pick for the fence?
I believe it's white.
Okay.
Yeah, I would add Proto Labs has been excellent to work with. They've been working with us to make this happen, and we're very thankful for their support. We've been in constant contact with Chris and his team on the fencing and what that's gonna be. Again, that's why I say everything is on North Shore's property line. So they've been fantastic to work with.
Yeah, it seems like a good reuse of the space that they're not really in need of the parking anymore.
Yeah, everybody from what I'm hearing, Ryan, they're pretty excited that it's just moving right across the road, literally. I mean, literally right across the road, so.
Nice.
Just from an architectural standpoint of the building, it looks like it fits the industrial neighborhood. It's hard to tell, other than the rendering on the first page of the second set of, or supplemental plans that came through, if there's any other windows than just at the front.
Just at the front.
Okay, wasn't sure if there'd be more windows desired or not for the gymnastic space. Or
It
more
actually
natural lighting.
becomes more of a safety concern with the windows and letting in light, and when athletes are up in the air and you get a flash of light into their eyes, they get lost, and that's when
Right.
accidents happen.
Gotcha.
Yeah, a new facility that went up in Champlin, they actually put in the windows and didn't they put in shades?
They ended up blackening them out because it's too much of an issue.
You wanna get light in there.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I'd like to see outside, and not be
Surprise.
in a,
My,
closed off box for, 8 hours a day, but,
yes, my experience from your current facility, I'm surprised there's not more party rooms.
yeah, right.
They're always full.
They are.
Not for gymnastics, but I feel like last January and February, we were there every weekend for a birthday party.
Yeah, they're very popular.
Any other questions for our applicants? Otherwise, if not, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll I'll move to close the public hearing.
Got a first from Stefan. Can I get a second?
I'll second that one.
Adam seconds the motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Ayes have it, 4-0. The public hearing is closed at 7:35 PM.
Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I would be in favor of additional landscaping on that east side. I know there's nothing there now, but there may be in the future. And even though kind of the north end, the adjacent property is lower, I believe further south it's actually higher. Isn't it?
Oh, as you go south,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I understand you need drainage between the wall and the building, but perhaps something behind the wall
Yeah, there,
could be
I think that's,
for screening.
I think that's where you could locate is on the top of the wall, between the wall and the property line. The drainage all goes down basically, and then funnels along the inside of the wall between the building and the wall. So, and I don't know what exactly that looks like. I just know we have the buffer requirement. I know long-term, if that property were to ever develop, it would be good to have the industrial buffer there.
Yeah, and the quality of the woods that is there is, it's some dying ash trees and a bunch of buckthorns, so it could use.
There's none of
Could
that in
use some
Maple
help.
Plain. I know there's a tree proposed on one of the corners. Wasn't sure if there was a line of sight issue at all. I'm just trying to find where.
Looks like it's set back further than the existing trees.
Okay.
Like at the entrance, are you talking?
Um,
On page 42.
oh, I'm on the.
Talking about this one here.
That one there, these here too, if you're coming around. I know I have that.
Well, yeah, there's one shade tree and one crabapple. Properly pruned, and crabapple's not that big.
Okay, yeah,
I wouldn't worry too much about that.
okay. I'm not a tree expert, so just wanted to bring it up, just in case.
Yeah, it looks like kind of the break-even point of the grading is kind of midway
Yeah.
in that north east section of parking.
Yeah, right in
So,
here.
really, yeah, kind of from that that point south along the top of the wall would be where I'd like to see some tree plantings. I don't think shrubs are gonna do anything, but some trees in there would be good.
Yeah, I think so. That would be okay.
And it can go well with, if there's a native plant, native, perennial plants, prairie plants, whatever, it can go well with that. Otherwise, looks like it meets all the requirements.
So, and really, we're motioning on the approval of the site plan, the final plat, right?
Yeah, and so, yeah, just to clarify, I apologize, on the preliminary and final plat, normally we would bring preliminary plat to planning commission and final plat to city council. It'd be a separate item, but because of the simplicity of this, and we've done this before, we're just bringing them together. And so we would be making a motion or recommendation on both site plan approval and preliminary and final plat. But it can be one motion, it could be one idea or one statement.
Designating that one piece as an outlot, not as a,
That's my recommendation. If planning commission concurs, I think that's the easiest way to do that. It's a fairly simple fix. We'll talk to Proto Labs and the applicant more just to make sure that that will work prior to the city council consideration.
You're saying lot 2 to be an outlot?
Yeah, and the only reason I say that is it's not buildable as a
It's not accessible.
lot and block because it's, so narrow. And what our ordinance says is you can have any size lot in the industrial park as long as it's adequate to meet all applicable setbacks and build a building. Well, it's a 20-foot building a 20-foot wide building isn't really what we want to see. So I think the reality of that site is that it should either be absorbed or an outlaw would do the same thing.
Yeah.
An outlaw would just leave it as a unbuildable lot essentially. Parking would be conforming, everything else would be conforming. Proto Lab's gonna have to do something at some point if they ever wanna sell or combine or do something different with that. Or if it's an outlaw, it could stay that way forever, I guess, as long as it's always a parking lot, but.
And the outlet would be part of the Proto Labs.
Well, yeah, it would just be ownership then, so they could certainly own it as a lot or block, or they could own it as an outlot, or they could choose to just combine it at some point with their existing site.
I concur, it should be an outlot, yeah.
So you could make that recommendation, approval preliminary plat subject to making that an outlot.
So really, we need to have a motion to either approve or deny the preliminary and final plat in accordance with the recommendations that the city supplies here in the agenda, along with the addition of making the, block 1?
Yeah, it's lot 1, block 1.
Lot 1, block 1, a outlot. And then with the additional recommendations Stefan had about adding some vegetation along the east line of the property. I believe that captured everything, right?
got it.
I think so.
So can I get a motion on that?
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
I move it.
Stefan moves to motion that. Can I get a second?
Go for
I'll second that one.
Mike seconds the motion. All in favor, say aye.
it.
Aye. All opposed, say nay.
This would also go to the September
Hold
20.
on. Hearing none.
Oh.
Hearing none. Ayes have it, 4-0. I'll go.
All right, this will also go to the city council September 22nd.
Now do a cartwheel.
Go.
Yeah.
Can I get a motion? No.
Or just tuck and roll.
I think he did.
Somersault.
I think he denied it, denied our motion.
Balance beam, anything.
I got nothing for you. These days are long gone. I'll teach you though.
Come on down.
I need it, I need it.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Moving right along to item number 6. Any other business? Any other business that we want to bring up or chat about? Quick Trip is going up quick.
Yeah, they don't go out quick trip for nothing.
Yeah, that's what I've said. Yeah.
That's right, 120 days, guaranteed.
There you go.
So,
They've been hauling lots of dumpsters out of the Haven Homes old property.
Okay.
And if you're curious, you can tell even just with a straight truck, like making that curve, there's lots of tire marks on there. So I hope the city actually holds true to limiting the deliveries to be box trucks and not semis, because
they'll never make it.
they'll never make that curve. So
Yeah, see, they've started on the landscape, cleaning up the landscape.
yeah, they did like half the building, then they kind of stopped. I don't know, and then they started working on the inside.
Must be, they haven't done anything on the parking lots or the.
No, they,
parking lot.
like, kind of the north side of the building, they cleaned up a bunch of the landscape around to the drop-up canopy, and they haven't done anything around the south side of the building yet. But they're hauling a couple dumpsters a day, and big roll-offs in and out of there with materials, so.
Yeah, and those skid marks, tire marks are apparent in other areas that they need to make turns on, so.
Yeah,
But Okay. Anything else? Otherwise, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Adam makes the motion to adjourn the meeting. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Stefan seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it, 4-0. Planning Commission meeting is adjourned as of 7:45 PM. Thanks, everyone.